People at the premiere thought it would be just another glamorous night in Hollywood. Bright lights, red carpet, cameras clicking, and celebrities smiling. But there was one moment that made the whole world pause. A moment that felt soft, human, and full of unspoken history. The moment Sandra Bullock saw Keanu Reeves waiting for her, and her heart melted in a way she could not hide. Keanu arrived early. That was unusual for him. He normally slipped into events quietly, arriving only when needed, speaking politely, then leaving without drawing attention. But tonight was different. Tonight, he stood near the entrance, hands in his pockets, eyes soft, watching the walkway as if waiting for someone important. The reporters noticed. The fans noticed. Even the camera crew whispered among themselves, "Who is he waiting for?" But Keanu didn't respond to the curious looks. His presence was calm, grounded, almost gentle. The premiere was loud, but he seemed to exist in his own quiet space. Sandra was still inside her car, nervous. She wasn't usually nervous at events. She was experienced, graceful, confident. But tonight, her heart beat faster than usual. She hadn't seen Keanu in months. Their schedules never aligned. Life kept moving, and they kept missing each other, like two stars orbiting near but never touching. But tonight, for some reason she couldn't explain, she hoped he would be there. When her car door opened, the crowd cheered her name. Flashes went off. She stepped out slowly, adjusting her breath. She prepared her smile, the one she used for cameras, the one that meant "I'm fine," even when her heart felt heavy. But then she looked up. And she saw him, standing there. Waiting for her. Not smiling widely, not waving his hands dramatically. Just him, warm eyes, steady presence, like he had been waiting only for her. Sandra stopped walking, just for 1 second. But cameras caught it. The stillness, the inhale, the emotion that flickered through her face. It wasn't love in some loud, dramatic way. It was something deeper. Recognition. A returning home to a person who felt familiar. Keanu walked toward her, slow and gentle, like he knew she needed a moment to breathe. When he reached her, he didn't say, "You look beautiful" or "Good to see you." He simply said, softly, "You're here." Her eyes warmed. "I'm here." Those two simple sentences carried years of history, years of quiet connection, years of being there for each other in small, real ways the world never saw. He offered his arm, not as a show, not for cameras, but as support. As comfort. As something steady to lean on. Sandra took it, her hand fitting naturally in the soft bend of his arm. The crowd cheered louder. Flashes sparked like stars, but everything around them felt muted, distant. They walked together down the carpet, side by side, not performing, just existing, just being. But Sandra noticed something small, but real. Keanu's single quotes as smile was soft, but his eyes held something else beneath the surface, something heavy, something he was carrying alone. She leaned her head slightly toward him and whispered, "You okay?" His answer came just as quiet, "I am now." It was simple, honest, vulnerable. And Sandra felt her heart tighten. This night, which everyone believed was about glamour and fame, was becoming something else entirely. A turning point. A beginning, or maybe a return to something their hearts had always known. They walked forward, lights flashing, cameras capturing every moment. But this story was not about fame. It was about two souls who kept finding each other. Even in the middle of chaos, inside the theater, the lights were warm and low, and the noise of the crowd softened into a calm hum. Keanu and Sandra found their seats together, though it was not planned that way. It happened naturally, like their steps matched without effort. They sat close, their shoulders nearly touching, yet the closeness felt gentle, not forced. As the event continued, people approached them, smiling, greeting, praising. They answered politely, but every time the conversation ended, the quiet space between them returned. It was calm, steady, familiar. But Sandra kept watching Keanu, carefully. Not the way the cameras watched him, not the way fans imagined him. She watched the tiny details, the way his jaw tightened when someone mentioned interviews, the way his fingers tapped softly against his leg, something he only did when he was holding something inside. The small, quiet signs of a heavy heart. She leaned closer, her voice soft enough that no one else could hear. "You're carrying something," she whispered. Keanu didn't pretend. He never did with her. He let out a slow breath, the kind that comes from somewhere deep. "I've been tired," he said. "Not just physically. My heart feels heavy, like I'm walking with weight that I don't know how to put down." Sandra didn't speak right away. She knew grief. She knew loneliness. She knew the kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep. You don't have to carry it alone. She murmured. Keanu looked at her then, his eyes soft but shadowed. "It's hard to let people in," he said. "Even when I trust them. Even when I care." "I know," she replied, her voice steady. "But I'm here. That doesn't need to be complicated." He didn't answer, but something in his shoulders loosened. A small shift. A quiet opening. The movie began, and the room darkened. The screen glowed. Laughter and scenes played out, but neither of them watched closely. Instead, their thoughts lingered on the conversation shared in soft whispers. Halfway through, Sandra noticed something. Keanu leaned slightly into the seat, his body relaxing as if finally resting. She didn't touch him, didn't interrupt. She just let the moment be gentle. When the film ended and the lights rose again, they walked out together. Outside, night air wrapped around them, cool and soft. The crowd spread across the sidewalk, but Keanu quietly stepped away from the noise, motioning for Sandra to follow. They walked around the side of the building where it was quiet. Only the faint sounds of city life echoed in the distance. No cameras, no lights. Just them. Keanu ran a hand through his hair, slow and thoughtful. "Thank you for waiting for me," he said quietly. Sandra blinked. "I didn't know I was waiting." He gave a very small smile. "I did." She felt something warm move through her chest. But then, the moment shifted. Keanu's expression changed, gentle, but serious. "I want to be honest," he said. "I still hurt. There are days when I don't know how to feel joy fully. But when I saw you walk toward me tonight, something in me softened. Something rested." Sandra's eyes glimmered, not with tears, but with understanding. "Then let's not rush. Let's just walk side by side. No pressure, no expectations, just real." Keanu nodded slowly. "I would like that." They stood there in the cool night, not touching, not speaking, just breathing together. But neither of them knew that someone was watching from a distance. A camera lens. Quiet. Hidden. Already. Capturing the story that was meant to be private. The world was about to talk again. But this time, the story would be different. The next morning, everything changed. The quiet moment outside the theater, the one that felt safe and private, appeared online. A single photograph. Keanu and Sandra standing close together, beneath a streetlight. No dramatic pose, no kiss, no linked hands. Just two people looking at each other softly, like they understood something the world did not. But the internet does not need proof to build a story. Within hours, headlines spread. Keanu and Sandra back together. Secret feelings revealed. Romance reborn. Under city lights, Sandra woke first. She was sitting on her bed, staring at her phone, scrolling through comment after comment. Some were sweet, some were excited, some were intrusive, a few were cruel, twisting love into gossip, empathy into spectacle. She sighed and placed the phone down, pressing her hands to her eyes. Keanu, meanwhile, sat alone at his small kitchen table, holding his mug with both hands. Steam rose from the tea, but he didn't drink it. He was remembering the softness of last night, the quiet words, the shared understanding, something precious, something real. And now, it felt exposed. His phone vibrated. He expected a text from his agent, or from a reporter, or from someone asking questions he didn't want to answer. But it was Sandra. "Can we talk?" Keanu replied simply. "Yes, I'm coming." He drove through the morning light, the city waking slowly. When he arrived at Sandra's house, she didn't greet him with a smile or a hug. She just looked at him, and he looked back. No words were needed to understand the shared worry. They sat on her couch, soft cushions, quiet room, sunlight touching the floor gently. Finally, Sandra spoke. "I don't care what they say," she began, "but I don't want your heart to feel exposed. I don't want this, whatever it is, to hurt you." Keanu listened, his jaw tightening just slightly. "It's not the attention," he said slowly. "It's the pressure. People want a story. They want to turn something gentle into something loud." Sandra nodded, I know. Keanu looked at his hands, fingers loosely entwined. I don't want to lose what we have. Not to noise, not to rumors, not to the world trying to take something that is still growing. Sandra felt that deeply. Her voice softened. Then we protect it. We take it slow. We don't announce anything. We don't explain anything. We just keep choosing honesty with each other. Keanu breathed out slowly. Yes, honesty and patience. Silence settled between them. Comfortable. Warm. But then, Sandra hesitated, something in her eyes shifting. Keanu, there's something I need to tell you, she said. He looked up, alert but calm. Okay. She swallowed, her voice quieter now. Before last night, before seeing you waiting for me, I had been feeling lost, like I was moving through my life without direction. I didn't tell anyone, because everyone sees me as strong, but I felt tired, alone. Keanu's expression softened instantly. Sandra, when I saw you standing there, she continued, I felt something inside me settle, like I wasn't walking alone anymore, like I could breathe again. Her voice cracked just slightly, but she didn't look away from him. Keanu didn't speak right away. He didn't rush to comfort. He just looked at her with the kind of understanding that didn't need words. Then he said, softly, I was waiting for you, not just at the premiere, in my life. The moment was still, delicate, not romantic in the loud way, romantic in the real way. To hearts finding each other again after wandering. Sandra exhaled, tears gathering but not falling. Then we walked forward, slowly, together. Keanu nodded, his voice steady and warm, together. But outside their quiet living room, a new storm was beginning. One of Sandra's co-stars had posted something online. A comment. Small. But sharp. It would change everything. Asterisk. The comment appeared online in the early afternoon. It was small, just one sentence on a social media post, but it spread like wildfire. Sandra's co-star from a recent film had replied under a fan's question, writing, I always wondered when they would finally admit it. No names, no details, but everyone knew who the they was. By evening, the internet was full of theories. Talk shows discussed it. Reporters gathered outside both of their houses. Fans cheered for love. Critics twisted it into something dramatic. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. But inside Sandra's home, the atmosphere was completely different. Sandra stood near the window, watching a few people taking photos from the street. Her expression thoughtful, not fearful. Keanu sat on the couch, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, hands clasped, breathing slow, steady, but heavy. I didn't think it would get this big, Sandra said quietly. Keanu didn't look up. It always gets big, he replied. People love to create something out of silence. She turned from the window and walked toward him, sitting beside him. Not too close, just close enough that he felt her presence. We didn't do anything wrong, she said softly. We didn't lie. We didn't pretend. We just were. Keanu nodded, but his eyes were distant, thoughtful, searching for something inside himself. Sandra waited. She knew him well enough to know she couldn't force words out of him. He spoke when he was ready. Finally, he said, I don't want to become a headline again. Not you. Not us. I don't want this to turn into a story that doesn't belong to us. Sandra nodded slowly. So we decide what to do next, together. Silence again. Not uncomfortable, deep. Keanu turned his head slightly toward her. What do you want? Sandra hesitated, not because she didn't know, but because speaking it made it real. I want to keep walking with you, she whispered. Even if the world watches, even if they talk, even if it's complicated, I want to move slowly, gently. I don't want to rush. I just want to stay close. Keanu exhaled softly, something easing in his chest. Me too. They sat like that, both breathing in the same quiet space. But just then, a knock at the door. Sharp. Sandra and Keanu exchanged a glance. Not a reporter's knock. Something firmer. Sandra walked to the door and opened it slightly. It was her publicist, someone she trusted, her face serious. They are going to run a story, she said. They're planning to release it tomorrow morning. They're calling it a secret romance that began years ago. They're building a timeline. They're turning your friendship into something messy and dramatic. Keanu's jaw tightened. Not in anger, in protectiveness. Sandra didn't panic. She didn't raise her voice. She simply asked, "What do we do?" The publicist's answer was careful. "You have two choices. You can deny everything. Or you can say nothing and let the truth be what it is." Silence filled the room. Keanu stood slowly, walking closer until he was standing beside Sandra. "We don't deny it," he said, voice low but clear. The publicist nodded. "Then expect noise. But it will pass. It always passes." She left, and the door closed softly. Sandra leaned back against the door, breathing out. Keanu stepped forward and gently placed his hand over hers. "We stay slow," he said. "We stay gentle. No statements, no explanations. Just us." Sandra nodded, her voice warm and sure. "Just us." And in that moment, something shifted again. Not fear, not uncertainty, but something stronger. A quiet promise, not spoken loudly, not performed for cameras. A promise built in silence. Built in understanding. And built to last. The next morning came with noise. The story was everywhere, not just on entertainment pages, but on morning news shows, gossip channels, forums, social media trends. Pictures of Keanu and Sandra walking together. Pictures of them sitting side by side at the premiere. Pictures of the quiet moment under the streetlight. Everything was magnified, stretched, and reshaped into something louder than the truth. They didn't leave their houses that day, not because they were hiding, but because they needed space to think, to breathe, to stay grounded. Sandra made breakfast, but barely ate. Keanu made tea, but his hands moved slower than usual. Both of them were quiet, not out of fear, but because the moment required stillness. Finally, Sandra looked at him. "Are you okay?" Keanu took a breath. "I'm holding, but I need to understand something." She waited. He continued, "I am not afraid of us. I am afraid of the world trying to own us, to turn something soft into something loud. We have been through too much in our lives to let this become performance." Sandra nodded, her eyes warm but steady. "Then we protect the softness." He looked up at her. "How?" She thought for a moment, her voice calm and simple. "We do not give them anything extra. No statements, no dramatic posts. We keep our moments small, private, real. We choose when to let the world see us, not the other way around." Keanu listened, and slowly, something eased in him. Not all at once, but enough. Then, unexpectedly, Sandra's phone rang. Not an unknown number, not a reporter. Someone from her family. Her sister. She answered softly. "Hey." Her sister's voice came warm, gentle, full of love. "I saw everything. I don't care what anyone says. I'm just glad you're smiling again." Sandra froze. She didn't realize she had been smiling. Not big, not bold, just small, soft, real. When the call ended, Sandra sat beside Keanu and told him what her sister said. Keanu smiled, the kind of smile that reaches the eyes. "You are smiling again," he said quietly. And then, without planning to, she said something real. "You make the loneliness softer." Keanu's expression shifted, warm and full. His voice came low, honest. "And you make the world quieter." They sat there, facing each other, both breathing in that truth. But the outside world was still moving, loud and fast. A message arrived on Keanu's phone. From his manager. "Producers are asking if you want to make a public statement. They think it will calm the situation." Keanu handed the phone to Sandra. She read the message, then set it down. "No," she said. "We do not explain ourselves." Keanu nodded. "No explanations." They decided to step outside. Not to prove anything, but to live. They walked into the sunlight, calm and unhurried. The street was quiet. No reporters, no cameras, just morning air. They walked to a small bench down the street and sat together. Not touching, not posing, just sitting, breathing, present. A woman walking her dog passed by. She recognized them but did not take out her phone. She simply smiled, warm and human. "I hope you're both doing okay," she said gently. Sandra smiled back. "We are." Keanu nodded. "Thank you. No gossip, no intrusion. Just kindness." After she walked away, Sandra looked at him. See, not everyone wants a story. Some people just hope we're all right. Keanu's eyes softened. Maybe the world is not as loud as we think. Maybe we just listened too closely to the wrong voices. They sat there quietly, letting the moment settle into them. The world would keep talking, but they would keep choosing each other. Slowly, carefully, honestly, and that was enough. The days that followed were different from what either of them expected. The world did not stop talking, but the noise slowly changed. The first wave had been loud, dramatic, demanding answers. But as days passed, the story softened. The exaggerated headlines faded. What remained was a simple truth people could feel, even if they could not explain it. People began saying things like, "They look peaceful together. This feels real, not dramatic, just gentle," and that changed everything. Keanu and Sandra found themselves returning to ordinary moments. They went to the small cafe again, sat at the same corner table, drinking tea and warm coffee. The owner didn't ask questions. No one took photos. It was just a people spending time together, and that quiet felt sacred. One afternoon, they walked through a nearby park. Leaves moved softly in the breeze. Children played in the distance. The world felt simple again, as if life had slowed enough to let them breathe. Keanu stopped near the lake and looked out over the water. It rippled softly, reflecting the sky in gentle patterns. "Do you remember?" he said slowly. "When the world was younger, when we didn't need to explain ourselves, when we could just exist." Sandra nodded, her voice warm and thoughtful. "I remember, but I also think we are wiser now. Life softened us in some places, broke us in others, but we're still here." Keanu turned toward her. His eyes were steady, not guarded, not tired, clear. "Thank you for not letting me walk alone," he said. Sandra smiled, not with her lips first, but with her eyes. "You never had to ask. I was already there." They stood together in the quiet, the world moving around them but not rushing them. And then, something gentle happened. Keanu reached for her hand, not because cameras were watching, not to prove anything, not to create a moment, but because it was time. Their fingers intertwined slowly, naturally, like they were always meant to fit. They didn't speak, they didn't need to, but something inside both of them settled. The kind of settling that happens when you stop running from your heart. After a long, peaceful silence, Sandra spoke, her voice steady and full. "People think love is a spark," she said, "something bright and fast and dramatic. But love is actually the slowest thing in the world. It grows like a sunrise, gentle, quiet, certain." Keanu nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. "I would rather have this. Slow love, patient love, real love." Sandra squeezed his hand lightly. "So we continue." Keanu looked at her, and there was no fear in his eyes anymore. No weight pressing on his chest. No distance between his thoughts and his feelings. "We continue," he agreed. They walked on, their steps matching without effort. No headlines could change what had formed between them. No cameras could capture the silence that made their connection real. No rumor could reshape the truth that grew slowly and honestly. This was not the beginning of a love story. This was a love story that had always been there, waiting for the right moment to breathe. And now, it finally had room to do so. Together, they walked forward, not fast, not forced, just real.